When you go to IPTV platforms, challenges are a little bit different, and they're mainly, the formats don't change. However, they have a tendency of being very picky. So especially the MPEG-4, H.264-based systems are fairly picky in what the stream, the files that are being played back have to look like. So there are very specific requirements that need to be met. With high definition, new challenges appear. First off is, of course, there's new formats that need to be supported. And in the high definition space, they're still evolving. I mean, in standard definition, you have your IMX 3050 and your DV, and that's pretty much state of the art. High def formats are still changing. You don't know yet if 50 megabits is going to be sufficient for a source format for professional production. For the time being, it is, but that might very well change. There are big challenges around subtitles. Depending on the country that you distribute the content to, keyed-in subtitles, like open subtitles that are rendered into the video, might be a requirement in countries that don't dub content, for example. That's a very important feature. But even if I have to put subtitles in for the hearing impaired, and that's required by the regulators, there's a challenge around that needs to be addressed. And, you know, it's a requirement. And the other challenges that we talked about earlier are audio challenges that revolve around surround sound. Dolby E was mentioned earlier, and also challenges that need to be managed by that automatic production distribution system that sits at the tail end. Okay, so these were the video challenges. Now, there are other challenges that involve around the metadata, but we see a very similar picture here, and I think the process is very similar. However, this is newer, and as Granby mentioned earlier, the metadata challenges might actually be harder to overcome right now than the media challenges, because people have been working on media for a longer time, and the metadata at that level is a relatively new concept. Not the metadata itself, but a systematic approach to it is a relatively new concept. Again, you start out with getting access to the metadata. So there's a metadata ingest problem, and that can be relatively tricky. So you want to get the metadata, for example, from your media archive system. That's one source of it. But there might be other systems that you want to pull metadata from. For example, rights and things like your distribution deals, for example, might come from a different database that sits outside of the production. Nonetheless, I need both of these pieces, ideally, to automate the publishing process completely. The next step, I have to select my outlet. Where does the content go to? Ideally, I derive that from the metadata that I just got. If the metadata is insufficient, a person has to actually pick, has to look at the content and say, okay, this goes to mobile, this goes to my IPTV platform. If you don't have the right information there, you cannot automate this process. It's a simple step, but nonetheless, if it's manual, it breaks the automation. The third step I mentioned is the playlisting. So if, for example, marketing wants to provide cross-promotions, bumpers that get rendered into the video, graphics that needs to be overlaid, I don't know, BBC Mobile or something, if you send it out to a mobile platform, you would really like to automate that. But in order to do that, again, I need some information to actually turn that feature on in the video. The next step is very important. I've got my source metadata, I selected my distribution outlet, now I need to run a validation step. So do I have enough metadata to provide a proper package to this particular outlet? For example, I send my content to the iTunes store, and I am delivering a pay-per-view content or it's an electronic sell-through, so I have to pay for the content. So that validation step would actually check that I actually have that information. What is the cost of that piece of content? Is that actually there? That's important for an outlet like iTunes. If I go to a free outlet like iPlayer, that's an irrelevant information. So the validation, while it might fail for one particular distribution path, it might absolutely work for another distribution outlet. The last step is the actual packaging of the content, and that is where I put the right file with the right file name next to the right XML file in the right format, referencing the right media file, zipping that all up or whatever it is required, and making it ready to be actually sent over to iPlayer, for example. So the challenges on the metadata are actually not that different from the media challenges, and But one of them is there's constantly new outlets that are appearing. Always something new is happening. Some new provider provides a new website that they want to put their content on. New mobile outlet. You're being asked to distribute to another country that has a different metadata format, different languages, for example. So that's a challenge that needs to be dealt with. So again, this platform needs to be flexible enough to adjust with those changes. Also, existing outlets keep on changing their specs and adding new features. If you look, for example, what Google has done with YouTube, there is a lot of control that I have. If you put your content onto YouTube, you can enable commenting. There's a metadata field that lets people put comments onto your content, or turn that off. You can say like, hey, people can respond with a video response to my content. I can enable the automatic ad tie-in that Google offers on YouTube now. I can turn on the automatic control for copyright infringement. That's the fingerprinting technology. And I can manage feeds and playlists. So, but these are just examples. And as we wait, I'm sure there will be many more of these fields that can be provided, and much more flexibility will be available in those playback platforms. And of course, there are ad-based ones, as well as free ones, as well as pay-per-view ones, and electronic sell-through platforms. So you need a system that can support all of these outlets.